Alright, so for this week's project, we're going to be taking a look at this very nice old Pioneer RT-909 reel-to-reel tape deck. And just as Pioneer's vintage receivers have become legendary in status, so have their reel-to-reels. And this one in particular, I would suppose, this looks to be the high-end, last of the line, best of the line machine that they made back in the day. And this comes courtesy of my friend's shop. He's asked me to take this one and get an estimate worked up and complete this one out for the customer. We know already there's an issue with the pressure rollers. This is something, of course, that's no longer available, so we do have a service that we will send those out and get them rebuilt. So that's going to be a first step for sure, but we definitely want to open it up and just kind of have a look around and make sure there's nothing else out of place. This will, of course, need a capstan belt at the same time, and so one will be ordered for it. But it doesn't look to me like it's ever been worked on. All the screws look to be intact as they would have been the day that it was pulled from the box brand new. So as always, we'll come in, we'll have a look at it, have a peek at the buttons and the features that they provided for us on this one, and then we'll get it opened up and see if we can get an evaluation going on this one. Our intro music this week, we're listening to the 1981 Black Sabbath album, Mob Rules, and this is one of my favorite records with Ronnie James Dio taking over vocals for Ozzy Osbourne on this one. And from start to finish, we got a great record here, and we're listening to the title track. So let's hear a little bit of this, and then we'll get started on the Pioneer. All right, picking back up, let's have a look at the knobs and buttons provided for us here. We're going to start at the far left here, and they're going to give you a headphone jack and, of course, mic input jacks, 1/4 inch for left and right microphones. Coming up here, we have the tape monitor switch for source and tape. Over to the right of that, bias and EQ settings, 1 and 2, assuming of what type of tape you're using will determine what position those are in. Then record mode. You're going to have the right channel and left channel. You can elect to record on both channels or just one. And then below that, we're going to have an output level control, and then the input level controls for mic and for line. This one does have the fluorescent blue meters on it. There's 2 switches here, one for normal and dim, and then one for average and peak for the meter settings. Moving over to the other side here. Give you your reel size, large or small, tape speed, and then a pitch control, and it's detented for the center. Then moving past that, we have a repeat on and off. We have a timer switch, and we have our pause. Right up above that is going to be your power switch. And then down below is tape transport controls. Fast forward, rewind, stop. This one is auto reverse, so directional for play, forward direction or reverse direction, and record. Up above here, they do give us a tape counter with a counter reset. And I think the best way to get a look at the pressure rollers is probably for me to flip it on its back, and then we can take a quick peek at that. So give me a minute for that. I'm going to go ahead and pull the customer's tape off of the unit and get that out of the way. And then we'll start the process of getting it opened up. But first, we'll have a look at those nice and gooey pressure rollers. All right, picking back up with you, went ahead and leaned the unit over on its back so we can get a good look at these pressure rollers and the heads, of course. One of the first things we want to kind of notate is I noticed that right here on the backing of the tape, there appears to be a little bit of that goo from the pressure roller that came into contact with that. So I'll definitely be a little cautious on just going ahead and firing this tape up as soon as the tape deck's repaired. Probably want to spool some of that tape forward and reverse looking for any other traces of that. But that's all I see. And when you pull the tape down, all you see here is just the normal residue that you would find on these tape heads, oxide from the tape itself, but don't see any other black goo on them at this point. So we'll just leave that for now. Pressure rollers are the big thing. Of course, any of these you find now, you're going to find the pressure rollers just like this. As soon as you press into it, it'll leave a mark, and it's very gooey. And of course, that goo is almost like some kind of tar that will get all over everything it touches, and it's very hard to get off your skin. Once it's on your skin, it gets into your fingerprints. Cleaning up, even with acetone, is kind of a pain in the ass, but they're both exactly the same way, and they both are very soft and very gooey. So I'm going to remove those and bag them up and go ahead and get those off to the rebuilders. Of course, after we've discussed the repair options with the customer. So I think the next thing we want to do, let's go ahead and get the case off of it, and let's have a look on the inside. I'm sure we're not going to find any better of a situation with the capstan belt, but we'll definitely look into it. So give me a moment for that, and we'll pick back up. All right, coming back in. Went ahead and got the top lid off the unit, back plate off, giving us good access to have a look at this thing on the inside. Not seeing anything here that we wouldn't expect to see after all these many years, or decades as it would be. Got a nice haze of dust on things, but nothing nasty, nothing spilled in it, no liquid, nothing like that. Just a little bit of dust. All will clean up real nice. Coming up over the top, looking down to where that capstan belt is, and nothing unexpected here either. You can clearly see that it's nice and gooed up and nice and soft. Already poked at it a couple of times. Let's see. Oh yeah. It's going to be fun to clean it all up. Go ahead and get ready with the 62 cotton swabs that's going to be required to get it all cleaned up. I've gotten lucky before and been able to roll it in a cotton swab and get them to come off. But I think what we want to do here, first and foremost, if you've never taken one of these apart and changed the belt in it, one thing you're going to want to be cautious of right off of the get-go are the screws holding this capstan motor bracket in place. They happen to be extremely tight from the factory. I don't know if they use some type of, screw lock or something on them, but it's real easy to chew them up with a screwdriver. So instead of going through that, what we're going to do is we're going to take the pyro pin and we're going to heat these up and kind of get these heated up a little bit before we start trying to get on them with a screwdriver. And once we get them loosened up and get them to come out, and it is kind of fun to try to get to the one on the bottom over here, but it is doable. But we're going to try to do that without disturbing any of this wiring. And if we can get this bracket out and just kind of fold it over out of the way, start getting the spindle of the capstan motor cleaned up and the capstans themselves cleaned up. And that's probably going to be about as far as we can go until we get some parts. So give me a minute for that. I'll see if I can set the camera up in the tripod at an angle where we can kind of operate on this thing while we're filming the video. So give me a moment for that. All right, so I'm picking back up with you. Got you set up in the tripod over here just so we can kind of get an angled view of what's going on around this capstan bracket, capstan motor bracket. And what we're going to use is we're going to use our favorite little portable torch here, a little Weller portasaw, and we're going to just slightly heat up the post that screw is in. Don't want to put too much direct heat right here, but just in the post, just enough just to kind of get it to where it'll be just a little easier to deal with. Because it's really easy to chew one of them up. I've done it, and so try not to do that. I'm coming in from the side here. I'm not sure, the camera's probably not going to be able to show you what I'm doing, but I'm on the actual post that screw is in. that should be good. Now let's see if we can get it to come out nice and easy without, and it still did. So we're gonna need a little bit more. And that's not the wrong screwdriver, that's the right one. It's a very stubborn screw. Coming at it from this side now. All right, let's see if that makes any difference. There it goes, we got it that time. It is a very, very, very difficult set of screws to get out without some aid. So, kind of get the idea of what's going on here. So I'm gonna go ahead and take out the other three using basically the same method. And then I'll pick back up and we'll pull the bracket out and start working on getting the spindle for that cleaned up, or the pulley, I guess you would say. So give me a moment for that. All right, so I'm picking back up with you. Went ahead and got that bracket out for the whole capstan motor. And what I'll show you real quick here, if we can zoom in, we'll see how well this thing will cooperate. I'll show you the screws. These are the 3 screws that I took out after the first one that I did on video. As you can see, looks pretty good, pretty perfect. Here's the second one. Looks good. Here's the third one. And this came after only one attempt. I was pushing from the back in the screwdriver, pulling from the front, and they came out on the first turn. This is the first screw that I tried. And you know, I only put minimal effort in it after I'd heated it up, and you can see that it's chewed up a little bit. Let's see if this thing will kind of focus on it. But it doesn't take very much to chew the screw up. And that was only one attempt, and then I quit and went back to the heat to try to get it freed up. So if you don't get it right away, you better stop, because you'll chew the screw up to the point where you'll have to bring in other means to extract it. And this isn't a big deal if I've got screws that are just like that in my screw box. But if you don't have any replacement screws, then try to use the heat method to get them loosened up before you go in and try to remove them. So we got this thing out, and it's gooed up pretty good. Unfortunately, this is all I got left. I got 3 cotton swabs here, so we're not going to be doing the capstans today. We're going to try to do this, and what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to roll up this goo onto the cotton swab, maybe. Or if it would just come off like this, I'd be okay with that too. I think I'm gonna go ahead and set this off to the side. And since I have limited cotton swabs, I'm gonna snip it off into the bag. We're going to take another stab at it here, and it's going to smear, so I'm not getting as clean as I would like. Yep, and I've already got some on me, I think. All right. And of course we'll be using just some acetone to clean that up with. There may not even be enough cotton swabs here to do it. Because I smeared it, now it's all over everything, so I got to be even more cautious about cleaning it up. That was a good one that time. Got a lot of it there. Once you get it smeared, that's pretty much it. You ain't gonna get lucky. You're gonna have to clean it up, and it takes a lot of swabs to do it. And in my case, I don't even have enough. All right, so I think I'm gonna bring in an old towel and go to town on it. I think I got one around here somewhere. Got that nice and black. And I can't stress enough, I've done this in other videos, how important it is to make sure you don't have any of that goo left, because if it gets on the new belt and gets into one of the capstans or gets onto one of the capstans or any of the pulley here or whatever, then you're going to have a problem. So you want to make sure it's all thoroughly cleaned off, no matter how many swabs you use, no matter how many old rags you need to use, but you got to get it off. And that's looking pretty good. It's looking pretty good. And of course, that old belt left a stain there. That's not a big deal. It's not creating any kind of a problem. And of course, we'll put some oil down in this before we get ready to put our new belt on and clean the pulley again to make sure we don't have oil on the pulley before we put the belt on. So I think that's pretty much it. Looks good. I always wipe down the outside to make sure I didn't leave any of that goo or none of it got on anything. It's coming back clean now, so I think we're good. Yeah, I think we're okay. So I guess we're on to ordering up a capstan motor belt. So I think the last thing we'll do before we end the video for part one, let's go ahead and I'm going to just loosely put the screws back in the plate, and we're going to flip it around and remove the pressure rollers. So give me a moment for that. All right, so I'm picking up with you kind of in the process of removing these pressure rollers. Thought I was going to be smart and take a piece of tape and wrap it around this gooey thing And that was all, of course, in an effort to get off this, you know, plastic cosmetic cap that they put on, you know, on the front of it. And of course, it just turned to goo right in my hand, and it's all over my hand. And fast forward 10 minutes later, and I'm picking up with you. But it's very nasty. I mean, I can't stress enough how horrible this is. And you have to be very careful. Once you have it on your hands, it's very easy to get it contaminated to anything else that you touch. And so I immediately grabbed this old rag, and as you can see here, it is going to have to immediately go to the garbage. It's not useful for anything anymore because that stuff is all over it. But I'm going to go ahead and get the other one off. I'm going to put these in a bag, and we're going to send these out to Terry's Rubber Rollers. He's in Sparta, Michigan. He's the one that rebuilds these, and he rebuilds inner wheel drives for turntables. And he does an excellent job. When we get these back, they'll be perfect and work beautifully. So we'll go ahead and call it for part 1 on this one, and we'll pick back up in a few weeks, 2 weeks maybe, once we have the belt and once we have the pressure rollers back, and we'll get this one finished up. I want to thank you guys as always. Appreciate you checking out the video this week, and appreciate you checking out all the videos on the channel, and for all the new people that signed up. Thanks for spending a little bit of your time here, and we'll catch you on the next one. Let's check out a little bit of this sign of the Southern Cross as we exit out of this one.